David Landini. I'm at the Four Posts camp near Deniliquin at a 8:32 muster, and I'm here with Michael J. Griffiths from Cafe Locked Out. And Michael, I watched a lot of your videos. I think it's great stuff.
Thanks.
But Michael, tell us about Cafe Locked Out. Tell us about yourself. What do you think's right?
All right. Cafe Locked Out started in the Melbourne Troubles, deep in the Melbourne Troubles.
Yep.
Literally a few weeks before I was arrested at the Shrine of Remembrance in the siege of the Shrine, and it started on the day they announced that the theatres were going to reopen and be segregated.
Right.
And I was making a living then as a playwright with my own theatre company, writing new Australian plays and surviving off audiences. We were happy as Larry.
Yep.
And but I made an announcement in the morning that my theatre company will never perform to segregated audiences.
And these are in the lockdowns in Victoria with the COVID-19 lockdowns.
Yeah.
Just to go back in the history a little bit. And Michael, and I'll just reiterate that, Michael said he's not going to perform with segregated audiences in America.
So I was just the playwright and the director, so I would be on stage, but I wouldn't have my plays performed to segregated audiences.
Yep.
I felt that I made an announcement that segregation was a cancer of the culture's soul.
Yep.
And I wouldn't participate. And so that day, that's what I've been working for my whole life, to be surviving as an artist. So I had to kill my own dreams. And I sat there literally a few minutes later thinking, well, what are you going to do now, you old bastard? And I could see tyranny coming in. So I decided, with what's left of my life, I'd try to defend free speech by allowing people to exercise free speech by interviewing them.
Yep.
And so I just started an hour podcast where I allowed anyone who wanted to come on to talk, and that destiny just ripped me away then.
And you're very popular, Michael, would you say?
I don't know. There's much more popular people than me. I think my job in all this is I've become an accidental historian.
Yep.
Because I don't edit people's stories, which means that if someone is willing to speak, that's their thoughts.
Yep.
That's all them. It's not me cutting it up to make it sound like my thoughts. And because it's their thoughts, it's a historical record. So we've got well over 2,000 of these now.
Yep. And when I said popular as in there's a lot of people who are very happy and willing to come on and just have it and explain and talk about their story.
No. There's it's getting harder to find people. People are more scared now than before. I think what's happening is, my fear is that people are defeated and they think the social credit score system is on its way, and they're adapting. And adapting means you don't hang out with people like us. And you certainly don't speak your mind on the internet. And so we're still getting people talking, but it's harder to get them. We never coerce people. But ironically, I think now it is more important to speak now than ever before.
That's a very serious issue that Michael's raised. To me, it's not just whether you want to talk or not. It's the oppression that's associated with people that are frightened and don't want to talk, and that's a serious problem, because tyranny and personally, tyranny and tyrants is not a word that I've ever associated with my life or with Australia.
I mean,
But the last few years have brought these words to the fore: tyranny and tyrants, and regrettably, these elements of human nature are in Australia.
Yeah. Well, look at the digital ID bill. They rammed that through, no debate. Didn't approach the Australian public with it. That's tyranny.
Yep.
They have no regard for us.
Yep.
They're supposed to represent us. They should have talked to us, spoke to us, asked what we thought about it, but they just ram it through.
Yeah.
And all those people were asked, if you have a problem, write about it. I bet there was 1,000 submissions. They've just ignored them.
Yep.
This is tyranny.
Yep. It's certainly the gateway to tyranny, and of course, tyrants and all these sorts of things. It's like with the lockdowns, it was only for 2 weeks, and then we were locked down for 2 weeks, and then it just stretched out to 2 years or whatever it stretched out to. And the digital ID that Michael mentioned, it starts out as voluntary.
But it won't be.
But it won't be voluntary for very long.
You won't be able to get your license, or you apply for a job, or do anything, or say, oh, you just need that.
It won't be voluntary for very long. It'll become compulsory.
Well, the key to that is you. Anyone who's watching this, you're the key. If they come up and say you need digital ID to do this, and you just comply, then that's what you accept. That's what happened with the supermarkets. They bring in these auto tellers. Everyone now works for Coles for free. Instead of doing the job your kid would done or your grandmother, that you pack it all yourself. You don't get any money for it. And then you're just making a fortune for them, and the prices aren't even coming down. So you're just getting used.
Yes, that is. But I'll just go back to Cafe Locked Out. Michael, you mentioned before that you've interviewed over 2,000 people, and you also mentioned the historical record. And I think it's very important to capture that historical record, because as the issue fades into the distance and people forget, we haven't got a record. And I know I've watched a lot of Michael's material, and I think it's a great the entertainment, not the entertainment value, but the interest is really, the human interest is very, very good, but also the historical record. So throughout all time, Australians can refer back to the work that Michael's done with a lot of over 2,000 people, and there's a record. And it's not with big corporations or crowds. It's with individual people and their own experience, and ultimately that's what history is. It's not the maddening crowds; it's the individual people. So,
because right now, what we're offering our children now and our grandchildren is you'll have to live in a world of silence, and whatever you really think or feel, you'll lose your job, or you might get in trouble with the government if you speak it out, so keep it inside. So basically we're telling people, we want you to become Anne Frank, except you don't live in a physical cellar, the cellar is in your soul. And that's where you hide and spend the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's right. And ultimately, Michael, and I haven't discussed this with Michael, but it was mentioned, as I said, we're at the 832 muster at the Four Posts camp, and we've had a couple of really good speakers, including Michael, gave a really great presentation there a few minutes before. But we had another speaker as well who mentioned something along the lines of how do we prevent tyranny. But my own take is ultimately it comes down to us. It's our individual responsibility. It's not somebody else. It's not anyone over there or over here. Ultimately it comes down to us, and ultimately we have to, if we want to live in a free country, and we are losing our freedom, Michael. No doubt about that. And the first freedom,
we've already lost them.
Take away the freedom of speech, the ability for people to protest and complain. That's the start. And then once they've got people silenced and Michael can't speak because he's in jail or something like that, then they can basically lay waste to all of us. But ultimately it comes down to the individual, and each of us have to be prepared to stand for freedom, and that may mean non-compliance. It may mean prosecution by the police. It may mean conviction by the police. It may mean going to jail, and ultimately in earlier days it could mean death. And that may be a statement that we don't hear. It's very often, and it's a statement we never heard about tyranny and tyrants in Australia before either. Maybe we're at that stage now where we have to consider what the level of our non-compliance and opposition to tyranny is, and work out beforehand, are we prepared to go as far as we need to go, which ultimately may mean death. Now, a few years ago, I personally, Michael, would never thought I'd be talking about these things on a video.
It's bizarre, isn't it?
It is bizarre. But this conversation, which a few years ago would have been just bizarre, it's not anymore.
No.
So, Michael, we're at an 832 muster. Now, 832, that it has a lot to do with truth and with, well, I can't go into a lot about it. But,
Google it.
But 832, Michael?
Google it.
Friends, 832, Google it, find out.
And these things here, these are corroborees. This is history either they don't say history repeats, they say it rhymes, and I find it quite incredible that this is the birth of something. It's like the ninth one now, and this is what they are: different tribes coming together, singing, music, talking, eating, sharing food. These are corroborees.
It's a corroboree, and great camaraderie. There's a lot of really good things, great things. So, Michael, 832 once again.
Yep, 832, Google it.
Google it, find out.
Yeah, it's a symbol for our freedom movement.
Thank you, Michael, for your time, and it's my great honour to talk to you.
Oh, thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Yeah. Cool. Done.
I'll just.